Good afternoon. It is 5:30. We'll call the regular meeting of the Mill Creek Township Board of Supervisors to order. Would you please rise for the pledge of the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Attorney Shaw, I believe we have an agenda amendment.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before we get started with the regular items on the agenda, there is one item to be added in accordance with Section 712E of the Right to Know Law. Under that law, upon a majority vote of the individuals present and voting during the conduct of a meeting, an agency may add a matter of agency business to the agenda. The reasons for the change to the agenda shall be announced at the meeting before any vote is conducted to make those changes to the agenda. The agenda may subsequently take, or the agency may subsequently take official action on the matter added to the agenda thereafter. The agency shall post the amended agenda on the agency's publicly accessible internet website if available, and at the agency's principal office location no later than the first business day following the meeting at which the agenda is changed. The added agenda item for this meeting consists of a request from the Traffic Department to execute Resolution 2022 R43, as well as the accompanying PennDOT agreement. This relates to the traffic signal grants that the board approved last week. Apparently, PennDOT needs a resolution and this agreement executed before that grant application will be accepted. This is an issue that just came up late this afternoon and must be acted upon by the end of the week. I would recommend adding this item to the agenda, and it can be placed after item number 17, so this new agenda item would be agenda item 18.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw. Is there a motion to amend the agenda to add Resolution 2022 R43?
I'll make a motion to amend the agenda.
I'll second, Dan.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Item 3 is public comment on agenda items other than development or rezoning application. Is there any public comment on agenda items? Moving on to item 4, approval of the minutes from the September 13th regular meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from September 13th, 2022.
I'll second that.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Item 5 is approval of the bills. Any comments or questions from the board on the bills?
I will make a motion to approve the bills.
I'll second that.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Item 6, moving on, is bids and quotations. The first item is supplies for the SWAT team for the Mill Creek Police Department. Mrs. Clear?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. The purchase will require a budget transfer from the capital budget allotment allocated for the purchase of radar. Uniform Outfitters is the area supplier for the requested armor that was previously issued to the entire team. Approval for the purchase of SWAT armor, plates, and helmet from Uniform Outfitters, LLC, for a total price of $4,978.95. I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of the SWAT armor, plates, and helmet.
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is portable radio batteries and microphones for the police department. Mrs. Clear?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is, Mobilecom is the authorized equipment vendor for the Erie County radio system with which Mill Creek participates. These are portable radio batteries, so 25 batteries will cost $3,797. The portable radio microphones, there will be 10 of them for $1,100.30. The mobile radio microphones, there will be 4 of those, and that's $176.40. Total price would be $5,073.70. The approval is recommended for the purchase of radio batteries and microphones from Mobilecom for that total price of $5,073.70. And I will make a motion to approve that purchase of the microphones and batteries.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is a chain cutter for Public Works, the Sewer Department. Mr. Donikowski.
Thank you. Good evening. The Sewer Department is seeking approval to purchase a new KEG Supernova chain cutter with a 24-inch expansion kit for the jet truck. One quote was received from A&H Equipment for the price of $14,820 under CoStar's contract 016-E22-206. These funds will be taken from the chain cutter line of the sanitary sewer capital budget, leaving a balance of $180. It is my recommendation to purchase this chain cutter and expansion kit from A&H Equipment for the CoStar's price of $14,820.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the chain cutter.
You have a second?
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is fencing for the Building Maintenance Department. Mr. Donikowski.
Building Maintenance is seeking approval to have roughly 200 feet of new fence installed along the west property line of the township's property and 50 feet of existing fence along the township's north property line repaired. Quotes for this were received as follows. Thomas Fence with a price of $12,880, Erie Fence with a price of $9,970, and Keystone Fence provided a verbal quote of $10,505. Funds for this project will be taken from the fencing west property line of the building maintenance capital budget, leaving a balance of $17,030. It is my recommendation to contract this work to Erie Fence for the price of $9,970.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions from the board?
I'll make a motion to approve the contract with Erie Fence.
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Next item will be traffic cabinets for the traffic department.
The Traffic Department is seeking approval to purchase 3 traffic control cabinets for the intersections of State Route 97 and East Gore Road, State Route 97 and Arbuckle Road, and State Route 97 and State Route 505. The existing cabinets are old and nearing the end of their useful life. One quote was received for these control cabinets from Pathmaster Incorporated for the price of $74,948. Only one quote was received as these cabinets are being replaced in kind as general maintenance. Funds for these cabinets will be taken from the control cabinet line of the Traffic Department capital budget, leaving a balance of $63,827. It is my recommendation to purchase these 3 control cabinets from Pathmaster Incorporated for the price of $74,948.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions from the board?
Make a motion to approve the purchase for 3 control cabinets.
I'll second.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, moving on to item 7 is a public hearing on subdivision and land development plans. The first item on the agenda is the Wegmans Lot C subdivision plan. Mr. Waldinger.
Yes, thank you. Wegmans has submitted a subdivision plan to show the creation of 3 lots, a lot number 2, a lot number 3, and a parcel A from the lot located on the north side of West Ridge Road, south of Wegmans Drive in Tract 313. At their regular meeting of Tuesday, September 6, 2022, the Mill Creek Township Planning Commission recommended approval of this subdivision. I would like to note that the developer's representative called me this afternoon, and he is stuck on I-79 behind a tractor-trailer accident, but he has offered to participate via telephone if the board were to have any questions for him.
Okay. The Planning Commission recommended approval?
They did.
Okay. All right. We'll go ahead and open up the hearing. Matt, did you see any issues with this at all, or?
No, I did not. The subdivision I know is in front of you and also on the board up here. It would be 3 lots immediately to the east of the PNC Bank. That's across the street from Wegmans. It would be to create one for the Starbucks that you had previously approved a land development for, another development lot, and parcel A would be the combined stormwater management lot.
Okay, very good. All right. Does the board wish to speak with the Wegmans the Wegmans representative?
I do not have any questions.
Okay.
I don't need to, Dan.
All right. Is there anybody here wishing to address the board on this particular item? Okay, we'll close the hearing. Is there a motion to approve this subdivision plan for Wegmans Lot C?
I'll make a motion to approve the land development plan for Wegmans Lot C.
I'll second.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The next item is a land development plan for Thomas and Patricia Potter. Matt?
Thank you. Yes, the Potters have submitted a land development plan to show the construction of a 240 square foot building, a 2,071 square foot building, and a 3,168 square foot building, plus a 1,944 square foot concrete covered patio and pool with stormwater management facility along the south line of Zimmerly Road, east of Love Road in Tract 351. And at their regular meeting of Tuesday, September 6th, 2022, the Mill Creek Township Planning Commission recommended approval of this land development plan.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Are either Thomas or Patricia Potter here to speak? Sir, would you mind coming up to the podium? Please state your name and address for the record, and we'll go ahead and open the hearing for this land development plan.
Thomas Potter, 5930 Glade Drive.
Okay, so you're constructing 3 buildings, is that
Yes.
correct? Okay.
Yes.
And a pool?
Yes.
All right.
And Matt, this meets all the requirements for a land development plan, correct?
Yes, it
Yes.
does.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Laird has done all the retention and all the surveying of it,
Okay.
everything laid out.
All right.
Have all the blueprints, all the stormwater management, everything's all priced out. I'm ready to go.
Very good. Okay. Any comments or questions from the board for Mr. Potter? Okay. All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to address the board on the Potter Land Development Plan? Okay, we'll go ahead and close the hearing on this issue. Is there a motion from the board to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mrs. Claire?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Thank you, Mr. Potter. Next item on the agenda is the Lyons Estate plot, sketch plan. Matt?
Thank you. Yes, the Lyons Estate has submitted a sketch plan to show the creation of the concept of creating 5 lots, lots 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 along the east line of Wattsburg Road, south of Shrimper Road, and to show the replot of a certain tax parcel that they own consisting of additions to 9 properties that front along St. Andrew Drive in tracts 338 and 334. I'd like to note at this time that this is a sketch plan, so that the developer can get general comments from the township before they invest money in a required development plan. No action will be taken on today's sketch plan, and any future subdivision or development of the land would require formal submissions to the township.
Thank you, Matt. Is there someone here from the Lions group? Would you mind coming up to the podium, sir? State your name and address for the record. And we'll go ahead and open, oh, it's not even a hearing, just a sketch plan, okay.
I'm Seth Tuttle, and I'm working for the Lions as their agent. I'm in the real estate business. And our plan here is to offer those portions to the adjoining property owners on St. Andrews so that their yards would be on their property. And there would be no creation of new index numbers. Those would be added to the existing lots that are there, or the owners that are there.
Okay.
And that would be what we call phase 1, for lack of a better term. And then we would create the balance of that lot. Absolutely want to commend you folks. I just got a copy to read today, but the Conservation Residential Zoning Act that you, areas that you just approved in your latest zoning change, is exactly what our plans are for the balance of the property. Those would be larger estate-type lots at this point, depending on what the engineers say when they get in there, and of course, wetlands delineations, et cetera, et cetera. But we'd like to keep those 10-acre lots if we could. And the uses that are outlined in that conservation residential zoning is exactly what we would have hoped to be able to do. So we'd like to make that maybe a pioneer project in Mill Creek for that particular new zoning classification that you have. Very pleased to see that.
Okay.
And commend you all for approving it, and the zoning for having the foresight. That's the way that things are going to be going, especially after the pandemic. A lot of people are working from home now. A lot of people are more intent on working around their house and raising a few animals, and lifestyles have changed. We see that a lot in real estate since it's happened, and no one else is prepared for it yet. So in terms of the local municipality, so hopefully this will be a great project for Mill Creek.
Okay.
Any questions? Seeing none, I'll excuse myself.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Tuttle. Anyone else wishing to speak on behalf of this project? Okay, thank you for your input.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, go ahead.
if you would allow me, I can read the township's recommendations and comments on the
Sure.
plan. Okay. So I'd like to start out by just saying that there were many different scenarios that were presented at the Planning Commission meeting, and it's not very feasible for the township to address and comment on every possible configuration. So these comments are based solely on the sketch plan as it was submitted. And the comments are as follows. The extension of the 9 lots on the south side of St. Andrew Drive would be increasing the size of their lots. This would require the developer to request a modification from the township's 3-to-1 maximum width to depth ratio. Mill Creek would prefer that Lot 3 and Lot 5 be accessed from St. Andrew Drive and Delphos Drive, respectively, rather than building long driveways to Route 8. This would require the developer to request a modification for frontage less than the minimum for the zoning district in order to access from the end of St. Andrew and the end of Delphos. It would be preferable to the township that Lot 3 be extended to the southern property line. It's then recommended that Lot 1 be reconfigured to include the western portions of Lot 1, the flag portion of Lot 3, and portions of Lot 2 behind the existing homes on Route 8 to create a more traditional lot as opposed to the long, narrow configuration proposed for Lot 1. The property is subject to the official map ordinance, which calls for the extension of St. Andrew and Delphos Drives westward to Route 8. After the developer gives formal notice to Mill Creek of their intent to develop, the township then has up to 1 year to decide if it would seek those street extensions. All vehicular access to Route 8 is governed by PennDOT's highway occupancy permit process, and permits would need to be obtained from the developer prior to development of any of the lots that access Route 8. But in general, the concept of creating 5 large estate-style lots for 5 single-family homes would be looked at favorably by the township.
Thank you, Matt. There's no further action required, is there, Mark?
No, I think Matt does send a letter to the applicant with the various comments that he made, so that he has a written copy of that.
Okay. All right, thank you. Item 9 would be an exclusion from a land development request for Gerlach's power equipment. Matt?
Thank you. Mark Gerlach, the developer, is proposing a 4,062 square foot building constructed on piers that would cover existing impervious surface at the Gerlach's Power Equipment Center, 3457 West 26th Street. In addition, there are 6 storage trailers that will be removed from the property, changing current impervious surface to pervious, which would mean changing it over to grass. That would add an additional 974 square feet of pervious surface. No stormwater management is required since the new building is over existing impervious. It is the recommendation of the township engineer to approve the request of the exclusion, as the exclusion meets the definition and requirements of section 12547 of the Code of Mill Creek Township. In addition, in front of you, you do have a engineer certification signed by engineer Ann Sokol stating that it does meet the qualifications for an exclusion.
Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions from the board? Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Item 10 is a notification of exclusion from land development for Firebird's Restaurant. Matt?
Yes, this is an informational item for the board's behalf. No action is required. This is just to notify you that the Zoning and Development Office did administratively approve an land development exclusion for the Cafaro Company. They're proposing a 903 square foot canopy addition for the Firebird's Restaurant, and it also includes an expansion of their outdoor seating. They currently have some tables outside. They would be expanding that area and putting a roof over the portion. It is under 5,000 square feet, which does meet the qualifications for an administrative exemption. So that's just a notification to the board that that took place.
Okay, thank you. Item 11 is a non-substantial amendment to the Wayside Subdivision Number 4.
Yes. The developer of Wayside Subdivision, Brent Sessler, has proposed an amendment to Wayside Subdivision Number 4. The amendment to the plan shows the revision of the location of the survey monumentation along the south right-of-way of South Wayside Drive. They did place some monumentation that isn't required strictly by the township's ordinance, but they are at the edges of the subdivision lines, not at any defined geometric point. They were not required by our ordinance. They were having trouble putting those points in because of the locations in some driveways, and so they would like to re-record the plan, removing those non-required monuments. So that is the plan that you have in front of you, as well as a certification from the township engineer that this meets the qualifications for a non-substantial subdivision amendment.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
Make a motion to approve?
I'll second.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Item 12 is new and amended ordinances under review, the sidewalk ordinance amendment. Mr. Shaw?
Yes, the township currently has a sidewalk ordinance, and as a result of the recent final settlement in the Voices for Independence matter, it was determined that aspects of the ordinance need to be updated to account for additional obligations and responsibilities regarding the construction and maintenance of sidewalks within Mill Creek Township. The proposed amendments clarify the scope of the township's authority to require construction, reconstruction, repair, and maintenance of sidewalks, how the cost of the sidewalk changes or repairs would be assessed to properties abutting the sidewalk if they fail to comply with requirements, requiring compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act, and other applicable state and federal laws regarding the construction and maintenance of sidewalks, curb ramps, blended transitions. Also, it streamlines administrative matters such as requests for deferrals and modifications, as well as updating the penalty and enforcement provisions, which provisions range from $300 to $600 for civil penalties. The proposed ordinance draft of it should be coming up on the website shortly, and depending upon further review, it may come up for consideration and vote by the board at their October 11, 2022 meeting. This really is a function of the various requirements imposed upon the township as a result of that settlement agreement, which effectively is enforcing what the ADA already requires, just ensuring that we have the flexibility to enforce and comply with the consent or with the settlement agreement that we have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Shaw. Item 13 will be proposed ordinance 2022-7. Mr. Shaw?
Yes. 1 second. Ordinance 2022-7 is an ordinance adding Chapter 70, Part 8 to the Mill Creek Township Code to regulate limited lodging within the township, establishing application and permit standards and procedures, and providing for administration and enforcement. As previously indicated in prior meetings, when the township adopted its new zoning ordinance earlier this year, the new zoning ordinance permits limited lodging use in certain zoning districts and an overlay district within the township. In order to supplement the regulations for limited lodging in the zoning ordinance and protect the peace, health, and welfare of the township citizens, trade, and commerce that may be impacted by limited lodging, the township before you is an ordinance that provides for the regulation and registration of limited lodging premises within the designated zoning and overlay districts in the township. As the supervisors know, the township has received numerous calls over the last at least year of people with issues that have arisen with respect to limited lodging uses, and this ordinance should help give the township the ability to better regulate and react to those situations. Proposed ordinance requires that all property owners within the MU1, MU2, and Presque Isle districts, as well as the limited lodging overlay district, must obtain a permit for each dwelling unit they intend to use as limited lodging. Proposed ordinance requires the applicant to submit specific information to the township, such as floor and site plans, emergency contact information, photos of the property, proof of insurance in an amount not less than $500,000, tax and use certificates, as well as a township use certificate, as well as complying with the specific standards and inspection requirements in order to be granted a limited lodging permit. The limited lodging permit would be valid for 1 year from issuance and must be renewed annually. The ordinance also provides for penalties if a property owner or renter violates any provisions of the ordinance. The violation would be a summary offense subject to a fine of up to $1,000. At this point, we would recommend, and I believe the planning department would also recommend that the board pass this ordinance. In addition, at some point in the not-too-distant future, the board will also have to adopt a resolution that would set forth the various fees that would be applicable with respect to the permitting process. We're currently talking with our inspection folks to figure out what the pricing of that could be so that we can work that into the ultimate fees.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Shaw. No action required this evening on this, though.
No, on the short-term rental ordinance, there is action. The recommendation is to pass the ordinance. On the resolution side, we don't have one prepared yet, but I was just mentioning that that will be coming in the future.
Okay. So we are taking action on the ordinance this evening?
Yes.
Okay, is there a motion to approve ordinance 2022-7?
Excuse me, I will make a motion to pass, sorry, to vote. I don't know what I'm doing. Ordinance 2022-7.
What the heck, I'll second it.
Whatever it is.
Okay. Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
I would just like to thank Attorney Shaw for all of the work that you have done, and Attorney Caparosa on the limited lodging. I think that is, we need to make sure that we are regulating the limited lodging, and it's going to take all of us as residents to keep an eye out for the Airbnbs and the verbos out there. Because that's what this policy is going to address. There are only certain areas where this is permitted in Mill Creek Township. I think that we all need to be aware of that for everyone watching this meeting. If you are not located in that overlay district, then you will have to, you can no longer have a limited lodging available. And I think that the procedures that have been put in place here, Attorney Shaw will help regulate the limited lodging here in Mill Creek Township and keep us safe, which I think is the goal.
Yes, I would agree. I think the provisions really are set up that if someone effectively wants to use their residence as a hotel room, that, the people who come to visit and who stay in those rooms will be protected, and, certain safety precautions will be implemented to ensure that they're safe when they're in Mill Creek Township. The other thing I would point out is that prior to the recent zoning ordinance change, limited lodging was not allowed within Mill Creek Township. The Airbnbs were not, although, we are aware that there were a number of folks that did engage in that activity, but it was not permitted. So just to make that point in clarification.
And this takes effect immediately, Attorney Shaw?
I think this takes effect in, I think it's 5 days.
5
Which
days?
is typical
October
what-
3rd, I believe, is the effective date.
Okay, so all of the existing limited lodging entities, all existing will have to register their properties, correct?
That's the plan.
All right, you heard it here. Give us a call. Better register. Okay, I'm done. I'm so sorry. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Sometimes we pass these things and I'm like, do people know what they are really?
Understand.
Thank you.
Okay, Resolution 2022 R41, a resolution proclaiming October 2022 as Fire Prevention Month. And I guess I'll take this one. All right, be it resolved, the following pronouncement is be recorded into the official minutes of the Supervisors Meeting on September 27th. Mill Creek Township is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living and visiting Mill Creek Township. Newer homes are built with lightweight materials that burn faster than older home construction, and these conditions contribute to a much smaller window of time for people to escape a home fire safely, with people having as little as 1 to 2 minutes to escape from the time the smoke alarm sounds. A home fire escape plan provides the skill set and know-how to quickly and safely escape a home fire situation. Home fire escape plans should be developed by all members of the household, and practicing a home fire escape plan twice a year ensures that everyone in the household knows what to do in real fire situations. Mill Creek Township Emergency Management and Mill Creek Township's volunteer fire departments are dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires and home fire injuries through prevention, protection, and education. The 2022 Fire Prevention Month theme, Fire Won't Wait, Plan Your Escape, is to recognize those who motivate a household to develop and practice a home fire escape plan. Therefore, we, the Mill Creek Township Supervisors, do hereby proclaim October 2022 as Fire Prevention Month throughout the community. We urge all the people of Mill Creek Township to develop a home fire escape plan with all members of the household and practice it at least twice a year, to install smoke detectors on every floor of their home, and to participate in public safety activities and efforts of the Mill Creek Township's fire and emergency services during Fire Prevention Month 2022. Is there a motion to approve this resolution?
I'll make a motion, Dan.
I will second it.
Okay, Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Item 15 is Resolution 2022 R42, County Aid Application for Liquid Fuels Funds for Road Salt. Mark?
Yes, we are required by PennDOT to formally apply to the county for the liquid fuel funds that are allocated by the state to the county for the benefit of the township. We have spent just under $218,000 in salt, and we're going to get from the county $161,192 for liquid fuels assistance in that regard. That's down about $24,000 from previous years, and it's probably going to continue heading downward because it's still tied to liquid fuel sales, gasoline, and diesel fuel. So those numbers are not going to be going up, and but it's better than nothing.
Right.
So we need to have, it's my recommendation, we go ahead and make formal application to the county for the $61,192 via this resolution.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Is there a motion to approve this resolution?
Motion to approve.
I'll second, Dan.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Item 16 is a sidewalk deferral agreement for Stoughton Road. Matt?
Thank you. Scott and Bethany Kaufman are proposing to build a single-family dwelling at 3510 Stoughton Road. They're requesting a sidewalk deferral as there are currently no sidewalks in the immediate area. It would be the recommendation of the Zoning and Development Officer to approve the request, as there currently are no sidewalks adjacent to the property or in the neighborhood, and there are currently no plans to install sidewalks in this neighborhood. The Kaufmans have submitted a form signed agreeing to eventually install the sidewalks if the certain conditions are met, those being the properties on either side of them build a sidewalk or the township requires them for whatever regulatory reason. This agreement does get recorded so that it carries on with the property, and eventually the sidewalk would be constructed at the owner's expense, whoever is the owner at that time. So I would recommend that the board approve this sidewalk deferral agreement.
Okay, is there a motion?
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
One question, Matt. The drawing that's attached to that, I don't notice that it doesn't have the sidewalk reflected on that. Do you know if there is one that shows that?
I will double check and make sure that this was submitted as part of the stormwater management drawing. It should be the building permit drawing that shows the sidewalk, so I'll make note to make sure that that does have it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve the sidewalk deferral agreement for Stoughton Road.
Okay.
And I'll second.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is approval of 3 public safety grant applications. Mrs. Clear?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. The grants award amounts are based on population. There are a number of grants that have been handed down from the federal, then to the state government. And all of these are actually due on October 13th. We already have someone that's been working on these. We are eligible for up to $5 million on 2 of the grants, which would equal $10 million. Again, that's eligible based on our population. And another, I believe it's $1 million on the rest. So the recommendation is for approval and permission for the department to apply for these federal grants through the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency. The grants would be one of them for local law enforcement support grant, 2, a gun violence investigation and prosecution grant, and 3, violence intervention and prevention grant. So I will make a motion to give permission to the police department to apply for these grants.
Are these matching grants or?
No, good question. Thank you. These are not matching grants.
Okay.
Is there a
Cool.
second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Next item would be the agenda amendment for Resolution 2022 R43. Mr. Shaw.
Yes, Resolution 22R43 is a resolution to adopt a traffic signal maintenance agreement with the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation. This is a resolution that relates to the recent traffic grants that the township wanted to apply for that were approved at the last meeting. As a result of that, we learned that that PennDOT also needed to make the application complete, also needed this resolution executed, under which the supervisors authorized and directed to submit the maintenance agreement executed, submit modifications to any future maintenance agreement issues, as well as future applications for traffic signal approval, either in writing or via electronic signature, and returning it to the departments. This is a new agreement that we've seen from PennDOT. We've not had to deal with these before, and I think it's required as a condition of the grant. So if the township wants to enjoy the possible award of the grant monies, it has to execute this agreement in this resolution. The traffic signal maintenance agreement, we just got late this afternoon, so we're still in the process of reviewing it to ensure that it it's consistent with what our current practice is, or, you know, to the extent there are there inconsistencies, that we put the, ensure that we put the processes in place to make sure that those actions get performed properly. So the recommendation would be for the supervisors to approve both Resolution 22R43, as well as authorize the execution of the Commonwealth and Municipal Traffic Signal Maintenance Agreement, so that's subject to the solicitor's review of this agreement more in depth, to ensure that we understand what the township is ultimately agreeing to. And the township would need to ultimately sign the agreement and resolution and submit it to PennDOT by the end of this week.
Okay, is there a motion to approve these documents as described by Attorney Shaw?
Yes, I'll make a motion.
I'll second that.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Mark, anything under Treasurer Communications?
Just two things real quickly. We received from the state $340,760.18 in foreign fire tax monies to be distributed to the various fire departments, relief organizations. That's about $85,000 per fire department relief organization. And they will be, those checks are going out to them tomorrow.
Okay.
We also received state aid, Act 205 state aid for pensions in the amount of $1,217,466.18. This was more than was budgeted, and as a result, it covers the entire MMO, the minimum municipal obligation for the general employees pension plan, and it covers roughly half of the cost of the police pension plan.
Okay,
And those monies will be deposited by the end of the week in the pension plans.
all right, thank you. We have a hiring request for Public Works in the Streets Department. Rob?
Thank you. We recently had a resignation in the Streets Department, and we would like to hire Dominic Quadri as a streets maintenance laborer. Dominic currently works at the Erie International Airport and has for the last 6 years. He has worked in airfield maintenance and as a firefighter. He has a Class B CDL and has plowing and laboring experience. He is also currently the fire chief for the Westlake Fire Department. Dominic would start at a rate of $20.38 per hour, and he would have a start date of October 6, 2022.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve Dominic Quadri.
I'll second.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mrs. Clear?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Training and
Mr.
travel?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to say congratulations to Dominic Quadri and to our Streets Department. They do such a fine job, and I know they've been out 24/7 today, so thank you very much to all of them, and you too, Rob.
Okay, next item is a training travel request for the Police Department.
Yes, verbal permission was granted in April to facilitate the course registration and to secure lodging, and PEMA will be reimbursing $3,416 of the costs. The lodging for the 2 rooms was $811 for the week, and the lodging cost in total will be $1,622.78. The per diem total would be $1,472, and which brings the total cost to $3,094.78. The remaining $321.22 shall be utilized for travel expenses and the registration fees, et cetera. Approval for the 4 officers is the recommendation for them to attend the 2022 National Tactical Officers Association training 9/25 of 22 through 9/30 of 2022, and that's in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I'll make a motion for approval of the officers to attend the training.
Okay.
I'll second the approval since they're there now.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Mrs. Clear?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Next item is the Cato Annual Convention. Ms. Williams, I don't see anything here. would-
I neglected to put it in there, but there are 4 people that wish to attend at $30 per person.
Okay, all right.
I
4
will-
people at $120.
I will make a motion to approve 4 people at $120 to attend the Cato celebration?
Convention.
Convention.
I'll second that.
Mr. Bach, how do you vote?
Vote yes.
Mrs. Claire?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Executive sessions were held on September 15th and the 22nd to discuss various matters. Solicitor Communications, Mr. Shaw.
Nothing further at this time.
Okay, moving on to citizens to be heard. Anybody wishing to address the board this evening? Mr. Felix? State your name and address for the record,
Sign in too?
please.
Hi, my name's Chuck Felix. I live at 2744 McKee Road. And first thing I like to say is it's a shame that this meeting has to be around 5:30. Otherwise, you may have had the chance to watch 24 News and see me and several of our neighbors and the extent of flooding in our neighborhood. I'm assuming most of you are familiar with the neighborhood and the ongoing flooding problem. So there's no need to go into who's to blame, what to do, and all that. But the real quick version is Mill Creek Township necked down a large pipe where this flood area drains under Route 20, down a bigger pipe down to a smaller pipe, so only lets so much water out. And water backs up and floods our neighborhood. So in regard to that, a couple questions. About 3 years ago, a developer wanted to build apartment houses by twins. And he came, and I came and talked and said, I think it should be a crime to let more building going on in an area that floods. And they assured me it wouldn't add to the flooding. But not only that, but part of the deal was the developer was gonna give some of the land to Mill Creek to put a retention pond in there to help alleviate the flooding. So my question is, do we now own that land? Anybody know that answer to that?
We don't own the land, no. We are working with the property owner
Okay,
to
the
use.
Apartments have been built for a couple of years
Right,
now.
right. But,
Okay, so
yeah,
is there-
it is in process. Yeah, I know it's been a while.
Been
Yeah,
long.
Yeah, for sure.
And-
Yeah,
and
Mr. Felix,
I'm sorry.
that wasn't a condition of that apartment building
No,
being
that
built. It
your-
was
And when he said
it wa-
it
it was-
at a meeting.
yeah, it was something he was willing to do to help the township out with respect to that, the stormwater in that area. So just to be clear.
All right. So, and any more retention we can do is certainly gonna help. I just wondered why the apartments have been built for 2 years. And is there a plan to build, do we have a plan for the retention pond? We don't own the land, apparently you said, so.
Right. we
Mr.
don't.
Chairman, may I?
Yes,
Oh,
please.
we do have a plan to build it. It has been submitted to the Department of Environmental Protection. We did follow the department's guidelines as to what they needed when we submitted the application, which happened last year with the intent for us to construct the pond last fall. Unfortunately, we've had a disagreement with the department, and they're requiring additional items that they didn't at the outset. And so we're trying to work through those issues in order to get the permit. We currently do not hold a permit to construct that, despite our best efforts. So we have been working on it. And just to further clarify, as far as the ownership, we do have an agreement with the property owner on the apartments for an easement to place the basin. He would still retain ownership of it, but the township would have an easement to have the basin in that location.
Well, I appreciate that something's being done, and just hopefully it can be done as soon as possible. But the problem that I see is, the whole problem is that bottleneck. The whole problem is that bottleneck. And the township has come out, cleaned all the sewers, they're maintaining them regularly, and that has helped. I will admit it, but it's not the answer until they prove that. And all this cleaning up above there and putting a retention system, the up above isn't the problem. It's that bottleneck that's not letting the water go out. And I would like to have some type of plan to get rid of that bottleneck. And I'm sure why it was put in, but nobody would ever admit it to me, is because they were putting too much water down below Route 20 and doing some flooding down there. So I said, oh, we'll just neck it down so much water doesn't come through. Well, now the water backs up and floods us. So they're doing all this work, this retention pond, all this maintenance and cleaning on the south side of Route 20, when all they gotta do is take the bottleneck and deal with the real problem on the north side of Route 20. There shouldn't be a problem in our neighborhood. We have good collection. It just can't go anywhere. All right. So what I would like to get on the agenda, I see the township engineer isn't here, and see if we can't come up with a long-term plan to solve this problem. Not let's keep the sewers clean, or let's do this or that, to get rid of the real problem. The township put it in there, and they wouldn't even admit to me they put it in there. Had to go over to Joe Rengie, of the property owner, and he's the one that told me that Mill Creek put it in there. And when I asked them to take it out, they said, we can't take it out. We don't have a permit to do that. I said, well, did you have a permit to put it in the first place? And they said, well, somebody must have got a permit. I asked to see it, and nobody has a permit. So they put it in illegally in the first place, and now they won't take it out because of a problem on the north side of Route 20, and they're flooding us up on the south side of Route 20. So I'd like to get on the agenda to see what the long-term plan is, give a report to the property owners, many of whom are still home cleaning their basements, to let us know what's going on and get a plan in place and stop this flooding.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Felix. Anyone else wishing to address the board this evening? Sir? State your name and address for the record, please.
Thank you. My name is Paul Wojcik. I am at 3613 Anne Marie Drive. I sort of want to address an issue that's just the opposite of the previous gentleman's issues. I live in the Love Farm subdivision. I have a stormwater runoff that could probably not only accommodates all the water of Love Farm, but could probably accommodate all the water issues that were previously talked about. It's well made, awfully deep, works just fine. But for some reason, every year now, the township feels the need feels that it's necessary to come in and mow the whole thing down. I'm not quite sure what the purpose of that is, but they do it nonetheless. Now, I guess it is what it is, and if somebody wants to explain to me why it needs to be done, I'm certainly open to understand that. But my bigger issue at the moment is that the township owns a strip of land that's connected to the stormwater runoff. It's a 20-foot strip, at least according to the map that I saw, that's in between my home and my neighbor's home. Provides access to get down there. I have been without any problem maintaining that for the township for as long as I've lived there. I've got no problem mowing that grass and taking care of it. Benefits me for it to look more consistent to my home. But every year what happens is this work gets done, this monster excavator is delivered, and then this most destructive device that goes on the end of it is delivered, and it goes down over the hill and mows everything. It does a pretty good job of mowing. It's pretty impressive to watch. However, these guys leave an enormous mess, and they don't come and clean it up. Now, I got to imagine, and Mr. Shaw, you can tell me if this is true or not, but I got to believe that the contracts that this township enters into with third-party providers says you're probably supposed to leave the place the way you found it, and they never do that. So every year I come and ask for someone to come and get it done. I always have to ask, and I don't think that I should have to do that, number one. Number two, this year, I cleaned it myself. I had to cut my grass. And quite frankly, I didn't really mind it. It took me about 15 minutes. It wasn't that bad. And besides, I do great work, so I was very pleased with the outcome, considering it met my standards. But at this point now, there's, you know, you put an excavator like that on there, sometimes there's just going to be some damage. And at least now we're at the point where there's just some additional work and landscaping that needs to be done. I think some topsoil and some grass seed. I'm happy to do the work. Again, it'll meet my standards as long as I get to do it. It's just that I don't want to foot any of the bill for it. I reached out to Garlock's. You know, their price is $45 a yard with a $35 delivery fee for topsoil. And again, I'm willing to provide the labor. I brought some pictures for you just so you can get a feel for what this is. I mean, if any of you live in a subdivision, I think you can appreciate, and, you know, equipment comes through like this. You know, I mean, we talk about stormwater runoff and how important it is. It matters. Talk about, there was an awful lot of discussion today about sidewalks and how important those are. I mean, these guys leave a mess on the sidewalk, let alone the mess, you know, in the yard. So, you know, my ask is that, you know, we figure out how to deal with this in the future. My more permanent solution to this is, I don't understand why this has to be done in the first place. I really don't think that it serves a purpose, number one, because it's not like you take down the material and remove it, okay? Because I could imagine if you said, hey, we're worried about capacity in the hole that we've dug, because, you know, we always want it to be able to hold as much water, but when you cut the material down and leave it there, the volume of material is still there. And quite frankly, Mother Nature will do that for you for free, at no cost to the Mill Creek Township taxpayers, not to mention all the diesel fuel that gets burned as that equipment's, you know, being run through there. So I'm just asking, you know, if we can figure out a way to do this. I mean, ideally, if you never come back again and do it, I think that would be fine. I got to tell you, if I have video if you'd like to see it. It's a beautiful sanctuary in the summertime. Cattails and everything grow. It's a great sanctuary for the birds. Everybody who comes to our home, because we're right on the back of it. We're the one home we're at the lowest point there. We're the one home on it. Folks ask, don't you have a lot of bugs back here? Don't have any bugs. It's wonderful. So it's a really nice thing. I don't know, it just seems awfully destructive. And I'm not sure, again, I don't understand the purpose that it serves. If somebody said, hey, we got to go in there and check the one pipe, because there's 3 pipes that bring all the water in, and a single pipe that lets it out into the creek that runs back there. I mean, it's very easy to walk back there, check on that pipe, and make sure that it's unobstructed. It remains today. And matter of fact, the work was done on, what did I say here? The work was done on the 16th. I cleaned it up on Sunday the 18th. It poured on the 19th, and I guess it's been pouring ever since. So you can see the video I have on the 19th. You know, there's barely any water. You know, it's flowing just fine. The capacity is there. You could probably plant 100 trees in there would still be enough capacity in there. But you know, again, I'm failing to understand why we need to do it. One, it's expense, it's destructive, and number 2, I'm just ticked that they come and do it with no disregard for the neighborhood, do their thing, and they leave, and there's no accountability to the folks that are employed by the township that are supposed to oversee this, and then ultimately, you know, I think the buck stops here with elected officials. So appreciate the opportunity to express this, and if there's any feedback you can give me, I appreciate that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Would you like me to address the need? Just quickly to go over, you know, these detention basins, I know they just look like basically big grassy holes in the ground, but they are engineered. They do have specific capacity requirements. I understand your point, you know, and at some point grasses and things like that are not an issue for capacity in the pond, but without regular maintenance, then what you start to get is, you know, trees, sumac, things with roots that really do kind of destroy the integrity of the pond and then affect some of the capacity. Now, this is a larger pond, so I understand how you can, you know, it may take a while for it to get to that place, but it's much cheaper for the township to do regular maintenance on it than to wait several years and then have trees and things that need to be removed. And so that's why we try and do them on a regular basis to keep them maintained, to make sure that they're all functioning properly. And you know, this is one of, I think, 17 that are part of, you know, the township's responsibility across the township. So that's just a little, you know, reason why it is done, but we take your point about,
Yeah,
you
I
know.
mean, I can appreciate when you talk about a tree and the integrity. Again, I don't see any trees growing in there, and I would think that if there's a certain type of tree that you can identify, you'd be able to see it, snip it, again, somebody walk through there, snip it, as opposed to a excavator and this. I'm impressed. You got to see this thing work. It's quite impressive because there's a lot of weeds around it. I mean, it's a good device. I just hate seeing it in my retention pond because it is that effective. It is that destructive. This seems to be, I don't know, for lack of a better word, and I think that a lot of people, and I don't want to go on a wrong tangent here, but I mean, a lot of people get frustrated with government and the way things are done. It's simply because sometimes common sense isn't applied, and I just think that we need a little common sense here. Again, destroying that whole thing every year is, if there are some that need to have that done, fine, do it. If you need to do it every 10 years, fine, do it. It just seems like it's way overkill. We're bringing a nuclear weapon to a knife fight. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. That's just my perspective.
May I ask a quick question? Matt, who does the work on this?
Mancy Services, I believe, got the contract this year. They have for
Okay.
the last several, yes.
Okay. And they are certified stormwater maintenance people? Is there like a certification for that?
This is actually more of a housekeeping and a landscaping issue than anything. And I will say that out of the detention basins that the township does contract out, this is the only one that only gets cut once a year. We had a actually pretty lengthy discussion when we started contracting these. The rest of them do get cut once in the spring and once in the fall. We didn't see the necessity to cut this one twice a year, so we did actually back this one off to only once a year. But I do understand your concerns here. But yeah, there is really no certification for this other than it's basic
Like a mowing.
Yeah, it's basically just
Okay.
maintenance on the detention basin
And I've
itself.
got it forward after video, if you ever want me to email it to you, if you
Okay.
you can see it. And I'll leave my pictures of the,
Okay.
this
And-
is just of the mess that's left behind.
I was going to say, regarding the mess, is there an easement that they get onto the property? Because it looks like it's landlocked here.
There
I
is
have
an
my-
easement between the homes, yes.
On the contrary, now somebody, Mark, can you define what an easement is? Because I'm not
Oh.
a lawyer and I don't know if this is the right answer, but I had this argument with somebody here years ago. I don't think it's an easement.
No,
I
I-
think it's your property.
Yeah, it's actually, there's a,
I
It's
mean,
our property, I'm a resident
the
here as well.
the basin is our property.
and
but
there's a
it's
leg of it.
landlocked?
No, there's a leg that comes
Oh.
out to, is that Anne
20-foot
Marie?
wide strip of land.
Got it.
And that's why I said, I'm happy to maintain that, because that was my other, I used
Okay.
to bicker with somebody else, and I just said, look, hey, I don't see you coming out here and maintaining, I'm happy to take care of it, again, I don't mind that, I'm happy to do all this. I need a little bit more landscaping here, and again, I think the bigger resolution is let's do this less often. But it's a 20-foot wide strip of land that is contiguous with whatever the border is of the stormwater basin. Where those lines are, you know, it's kind of hard to tell because they don't, at least on those maps, they're, you know, the buildings weren't built, so I don't know where the survey spots would go.
Right.
So I couldn't tell you how many feet off of my house that, you know, that goes. But if you look, I would say if you pull up the Google Maps, it's you can see it's a pretty wide space now, and I believe there's another one that might be an easement and not owned by the township. My house, my neighbor's house to the right, because they've got a decent open space there that gives you access to it. Yeah, nobody's trespassing as far, or doing anything they shouldn't be doing, or going anywhere they shouldn't be going. I used to think that, because I thought that I was owed notice, thinking that it was my property, and then I was later educated that it's not my property, so I really don't have to say it.
Yeah, it's typically in situations where the township accepted responsibility for those basins You know, it was in fee, not via an easement. Oftentimes in subdivisions that maintain their own basins, it's more or less an easement that runs across.
And that easement word came up because, you know, the house that we live in was built by the developer himself, and there was some discussion about that where he used the word easement. He said, oh, they came in and dug it out once, hope they never do it. And nobody ever came for forever, and I thought that that was great. And now all of a sudden it's an annual occurrence, which I think, again, I think is too frequent.
Okay.
So for now, I'd just like to get some topsoil to fix up the messed up parts of the yard. Mother Nature does a hell of a job. I watered the heck out of it afterwards, and then it stormed, and I didn't really have to water because the rain really does a nice job of repairing as well. But there's some low spots and some tore up spots that need to be dressed up and dressed. And again, I got to look at it. That's my biggest thing, and I care. I like how things look, and I just want it to look nice. That's all. So if you guys would consider that, I'd appreciate it. And I think I've talked an awful lot about something that's not that big of a deal, but big deal to me. So thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to address the board? Sir? You can state your name and address for the record.
My name is Patrick Martin. I live at 4821 Woodbury Drive. And my father served as Milk Creek supervisor for 30 years, from 1964 to 1994. His name's Paul Martin. And I ran into Kim earlier this summer, and I asked her how I might go about renaming Bear Valley Park as Paul J. Martin Park, and I'm just curious as to if she found anything out.
Well, I will tell you that we have had discussion on this, and I don't think that we have like a clear plan in place right now, but we are in discussion about your request.
Okay.
And
Do you have any
we
idea
don't
what-
really, we don't have, this isn't like something that comes up all the time, so we don't have a process in place. So we have to create one.
Okay, that's what I was curious about. I mean, I don't know if I'd have to get signatures, you know, or, you know, how to
And
go
that's
about this.
and I think that that's kind of the homework that we're all doing. We're trying to figure out exactly how something like this would get done,
Okay.
or what it looks like. So yes, we actually, I think, just talked, was it last Thursday? We just talked about it again last Thursday, so. It's on our radar, just so you know. It's every week, it's on our agenda.
Okay. All right.
So I'll keep you updated, though, on what needs to be done, if this can be done, what it looks like, all of that. I'll keep you updated.
All right.
I would say too, given the timing at this point, since we're almost into October, we'd probably be looking more towards the springtime if we're actually going to proceed with something. Because the weather will be nicer and it would make sense to do it in that time of year, so.
Okay, like I said, I didn't know if, you know, I was gonna have to, get or whatever. And I thought maybe it was something I could do over the winter if I
Yeah.
had to. So, thanks.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else wishing to address the board? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second? Motion, or meeting's adjourned.